After spending a year covering for my best friend's mistakes, she backstabbed me during a review, saying, honestly, she slows down every project we're on. I sat there speechless as our boss nodded. I didn't defend myself. I just pulled out a complete report showing exactly whose errors had cost the company thousands, and handed it to leadership. Watching her get marched out with her box of things was the closure I didn't know I needed. I didn't say a word when she threw me under the bus. Not one word. I just looked at her, and I knew right then, we were never really friends. I had wasted so much time believing we were. This happened last fall in Columbus, Ohio. I work for a logistics company not far from downtown. It's not a big-name company, but big enough that there's structure, politics, and performance reviews that feel like court trials. My name's Sarah, I'm 34, and I've been with the company for almost 5 years. I'm not the loud type. I don't do office gossip or happy hours. I show up, I do the work, I go home. That's it. Morgan came in 2 years ago. She was a transfer from another city, and she was the kind of person who made a big entrance. Loud laugh, flashy style, confident in every room. People liked her right away. She talked a lot, made jokes in meetings, called herself the fixer. She picked me out early on. You and me, she said that first week, we're gonna crush it. At first, it felt like a good match. We were both project coordinators, working under the same manager. I had more experience with the systems and the numbers. She had more confidence dealing with leadership. We split tasks. She handled the meetings, I handled the spreadsheets. It worked. But then she started slipping. She'd show up late or not at all. Blame traffic. Blame her kid. Blame the client. It didn't matter. She always had an excuse, and the bosses bought it. Then she started making mistakes. Small ones at first. Missing invoice codes, forgetting to loop people in on emails. I'd catch them, fix them quietly. She'd thank me, call me her secret weapon. That phrase started to grind on me. It wasn't long before the mistakes got bigger. Budget reports with totals off by thousands. Project timelines off by weeks. Miscommunication with vendors that delayed shipments. Every time, I was the one scrambling behind the scenes to fix it before anyone higher up noticed. I thought I was being a good teammate. A good friend. I didn't want her to get in trouble. Then it got worse. She started taking credit for things I did. Reports I wrote. Meetings I set up. She'd reword my emails and forward them like they were hers. I knew what was happening, but I didn't speak up. I told myself, it's fine. Leadership knows what I do. But they didn't. Morgan was good at putting on a show. In front of management, she looked polished and calm. Meanwhile, I was drowning in her messes and too tired to keep defending myself. So I started keeping records. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my boyfriend. I just started documenting every mistake. Every correction I made. Every instance where I had to cover for her. I saved emails. Took screenshots. Tracked hours I spent fixing things she broke. At first, I told myself it was just for peace of mind. But the truth was, I knew something was coming. And it did. Our department does performance reviews once a year. It's not just one-on-one with your manager, you also get reviewed by directors and sometimes HR. They look at team performance, project success, and individual contributions. Morgan and I were paired for a joint review because we'd worked on so many of the same projects. I didn't love the idea, but I figured I had enough to show what I'd done. We walked in together. She looked sharp, bright blazer, big smile. I had a manila folder in my bag, just in case. They asked Morgan how she felt our team had done over the last year. Without missing a beat, she said, honestly, I feel like I've had to carry a lot of the workload. Sarah's a good person, but she's slow. I've had to clean up behind her more than once. It's been hard. It hit me in the chest like a truck. I sat there frozen. Couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was someone I had protected, defended, worked extra hours for. She looked me right in the eye and lied. And my manager nodded. Didn't even ask me for my side. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I reached into my bag. Pulled out the folder. It was thick, about 8 months' worth of documents, all neatly labeled. A full timeline of her errors, with corrections, proof, and emails. I slid it across the table to the director. If you want to see who's really been cleaning up behind who, I said, this should help. The room went dead quiet. They started flipping through the pages. Their expressions changed fast, from bored to confused to serious. They didn't finish the review. Morgan was asked to wait in the conference room while the director and HR left with the folder. 10 minutes later, they came back with security. She was being let go immediately for negligence and dishonesty. No warning. No second chance. They handed her a cardboard box and told her to pack up. She didn't say a word. Didn't even look at me as they walked her out. I just sat there. I couldn't move. It was over. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But 2 weeks after Morgan was escorted out, things at work got weird. At first, it was little stuff. A few coworkers got quiet when I walked into a room. A couple of them stopped inviting me to lunch. I caught someone whispering once, and when I walked by, they shut up like I wasn't supposed to hear. Then my manager, the same one who had nodded while Morgan lied in that meeting, started nitpicking my work. I'd been praised for my reports before. Suddenly, they were too detailed, too cautious. He started assigning me to side projects no one cared about. It felt like I was being pushed out of the spotlight. I figured maybe it was just tension after what happened. Maybe people didn't know the whole story. But then I got coffee with Lisa, one of the admins who used to be friendly with both me and Morgan. She looked uncomfortable the entire time. She finally leaned in and said, "People think you got her fired on purpose. That you were setting her up for months." I almost laughed. She did that to herself. Lisa gave me this look, like she believed me, but also didn't want to get in the middle. "I'm just telling you what people are saying. Morgan's been calling people. Telling them you planned it. That you were jealous of her connections." That hit me hard. Because if I was honest, I had been jealous sometimes. Not of her charm, but of how easily she seemed to get by, how she could mess up and still get ahead. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts just to stay afloat. But planning her downfall? No. I never wanted to destroy her. I just wanted the truth out. The next day, I requested a meeting with HR. I told them what Lisa had said. They listened, nodded, and said, "We'll look into it." 2 days later, my access to one of our financial dashboards was revoked. No warning. No reason. Just gone. When I asked about it, my manager said, "We're reassigning some responsibilities. Don't take it personally." It felt personal. And then, one Friday afternoon, I got an email. Subject, formal concern. It was from HR. Someone had filed a complaint against me, claiming I'd created a hostile work environment and had been collecting data to sabotage a team member. It didn't say who submitted it. But I didn't need to guess. Morgan was gone, but her shadow was still here. Still poisoning everything. Still trying to twist what happened. I sat in my car in the parking garage that night, hands shaking, wondering if I had made a mistake by saying anything at all. If I'd just kept covering for her, would I still have my job? Would people still like me? But that thought didn't sit right either. Because the truth is, she would have kept using me. Kept letting me take the hits while she smiled through meetings. Sooner or later, I would have burned out completely. Still, the complaint meant one thing: she wasn't done. And now, neither was I. I started digging again. But this time I wasn't just collecting proof for leadership. I was collecting it for me. For what I was about to do next. I didn't sleep that weekend. I kept thinking about that complaint. About how Morgan, even after being fired, was still finding ways to mess with my life. How people who'd known me for years suddenly thought I was some schemer who planned her fall like it was some kind of office Game of Thrones. I wasn't mad at them. I was mad at myself for not seeing how far she'd go. On Monday, I went back into the office with a new plan. If Morgan wanted to smear my name, I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to expose every bit of rot she left behind. First thing I did was pull together a second folder. Not about Morgan this time. This one was about everyone who knew what she was doing and stayed quiet. There were emails where I'd asked for help, asked for clarity, even flagged issues. No one had backed me up. Some of them had even passed the blame onto me to protect her. Next, I started watching who she was still talking to. A few coworkers were still in touch with her, texting during the day, whispering in break rooms. It didn't take long to figure out she was feeding them stories. Stuff about me being bitter, about me tracking her every move for months, about me being obsessed with getting her job. She told them I was dangerous. And the worst part? Some of them believed her. But here's the thing Morgan never understood: I don't forget. I don't move on fast. And I sure as hell don't let liars rewrite my story. One name kept coming up in all this: Brian. He worked in IT, and he had always been tight with Morgan. Not socially, but professionally. They used to sit in on cross-department calls together. He was the one who set up most of our project dashboards. And I remembered something. A few months before Morgan was fired, we had an internal document go missing, a vendor contract with sensitive pricing details. It vanished from our shared folder, then magically reappeared the next day, with edits that favored one of Morgan's old vendor contacts from her last job. It seemed shady at the time, but I let it go. I thought maybe it was just a glitch. Now I wasn't so sure. I reached out to someone I trusted, an old coworker named Denise who had been laid off last year but still worked freelance with our team sometimes. She had no ties to anyone in the office drama. I sent her what I had and asked her to quietly look into metadata on the file history. She called me 2 days later. Her voice was tight. You were right. That contract was edited off the system, uploaded from an outside IP, then reloaded with your login name spoofed. Someone tried to make it look like you doctored the file. I nearly dropped the phone. That wasn't just office drama anymore. That was fraud. And now I had proof someone had tried to pin it on me. I sat with that for a long time. Thought about what to do next. I didn't want to play dirty. But this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was survival. I went back to HR. This time, with a full printed packet. I showed them the fake login, the vendor connection, the contract edits. I told them flat out, someone inside IT helped Morgan cover her tracks, and tried to pin a fake edit on me. They were quiet for a long time. Then they asked for a copy of everything. That night, around 6 o'clock, Brian was called into the conference room. He didn't come out for over an hour. And when he did, he walked straight past me, wouldn't even look me in the eye. I don't know what HR said. But the next day, I noticed Brian's email was disabled. His name was gone from the company Slack. 2 days later, he was gone. No box. No goodbye. Just gone. But it wasn't over yet. Because that complaint against me? It was still on file. HR said they were reviewing the matter and would follow up soon. I knew what that meant. Morgan had left me a little time bomb, a parting shot, and she was hoping I'd crack under pressure before it exploded. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. She started this war. But I was going to end it. The complaint stayed on my record for another 2 weeks. HR kept saying, "We're looking into it." Every time I asked, they said, "Soon." I started to wonder if they were hoping I'd quit. Let the problem disappear on its own. But I didn't quit. I doubled down. I spent every night going through old records, messages, anything that showed Morgan's pattern. Not just how she lied, but how the company let her. I found projects where she padded numbers, hid budget overruns, even covered up delivery issues by changing report timestamps. All with someone backing her quietly. Turns out, it wasn't just Brian. It was my manager, too. The same guy who nodded when she called me slow in that review. I should have seen it then. He was in deep. I pulled up one report we worked on last spring, a failed rollout that lost us over $30,000. Officially, the cause was supplier miscommunication. But the real issue was Morgan forgetting to confirm specs with the vendor. And my manager helped cover it up. Emails were missing, calls weren't logged right, and Morgan had reconstructed the timeline after the fact. I had proof now. Real proof. And I had nothing to lose. So I sent one final email. Not to HR. To the CEO. Our company isn't massive, but we're big enough that you don't just message the top unless it's serious. I attached everything, every edited file, every email, every cover-up, every fake login. I labeled it breach of ethics and potential fraud by department staff. I hit send. And I waited. 3 days later, I was pulled into a meeting. Not with HR. With legal. They took it seriously. Real seriously. Turns out, the contract Morgan doctored? It broke multiple policies, maybe even laws. And the fact that my login was spoofed? That was a whole separate investigation. Legal asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I'd think about it. But the fallout came fast. My manager was suspended first. Then fired 2 weeks later. The official email said he had violated data protocols. People finally started looking at me different again, not with suspicion, but with caution. Like they realized I wasn't someone you could push around anymore. As for Morgan? She called me. I don't know how she got my personal number, but one night around 10 p.m., my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was calm. Too calm. You happy now? She said. I didn't answer. You ruined everything, she said. You think they're going to protect you? They're using you. They'll toss you out next. I finally spoke. I didn't ruin anything. You did. You just finally got caught. There was silence on the line. Then she hung up. That was the last time I heard from her. HR cleared the complaint from my file. Quietly. No apology. Just an email that said the issue had been reviewed and resolved. I stayed another month. Then I handed in my notice. Not because I was scared, I wasn't. But because I didn't want to live in that building anymore. I didn't want to keep passing the break room where I once cried after that review. I didn't want to smile at people who had doubted me. I took a new job 2 towns over. Smaller team. Honest leadership. Clean slate. But I kept the folder. Both of them. Because sometimes, the only way to survive is to remember exactly how far someone tried to bury you, and how deep you had to dig to climb out. Morgan thought she could destroy me to save herself. In the end, she lost her job, her allies, her credibility. And me? I walked away clean, not because I played dirty. But because I stopped playing nice. And I never will again.